All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a treat. Many of you out there know this woman as a profound Bible teacher, an astounding, brilliant mind, but I know her as Scylla, my sister Scylla.
For many believers, for many Christians, the question we often find ourselves toying with is how close can I get to sin without crossing the line?
That's right.
But for the disciple, that's not even the right question. The question for the disciple is how close can I get to Jesus?
That's right.
So then you stop toying with sin altogether. Is this thing pushing me towards Christ likeness? If it's not, then really it's sin to me.
You just gonna preach today. I'm gonna throw my shoe at you right now. You just gonna preach over here.
I'm gonna keep it real. To see a woman preaching, it was like, wait, what's happening?
And I was like, do I really believe I can't learn anything from a woman?
I was for a very long time saying no to all Sunday morning invitations.
Wow.
Mostly because
This is The Deep End with Lecrae.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have a treat. We have something incredibly special for you. Now, many of you out there know this woman as a profound Bible teacher, an astute, astounding, brilliant mind. And some of y'all know her as the actress in some of your favorite Christian movies. But I know her as Scylla, my sister Scylla. Okay, and we're going to talk to all of Scylla sides today. But I'm excited because, man, we have the incredible Priscilla Shirer, and I'm just grateful to have you here today.
I'm glad to be here. My brother.
Absolutely.
Only the people that know me say Scylla.
Listen, there has to be, when you have a long name like that, you got it's like, I can't be Lecrae. It's like, oh, that's Cray. You know what I mean? It's like, I am curious. That's interesting. Priscilla was your name as a child. Did anybody make fun of you for that?
No.
Okay.
Is
I was
my
wondering.
name make fun of?
No, but I'm just saying it's biblical. But I didn't know if it was
kind of an old-timey name.
That's
like
what I was going to say.
Evelyn or something like that. I understand.
But, we grew up with kids with all kinds of names.
Yes.
So
nobody said anything about Lecrae when you were growing up?
I got a couple. But for the most part, just like one little round of name calling, but not too much. You know what I mean?
We made it.
We made it. We survived. I'm excited because, over the years, I've just gotten to, from afar, admire and respect what you do. And from afar is sometimes hearing your voice on my wife's iPad or something along those lines, as she's doing a study or something along those lines. But then over the years, getting to know you as a live and breathing human being, and it's been a blessing to see just all the multifaceted sides of you. So getting to know you, the person, is so refreshing and encouraging. And then sometimes I'll hear you speak and I'll be like, God, she's brilliant. But no, sincerely. And I'm just like, I think it's important that people know, like, there's many facets to a person.
Yeah.
Do people think that you're not, like, I don't know, do they have a perspective of you like, oh, she's going to be very serious, or this is how her approach is going to be?
I think so. I think that's how we do everybody, though. Like, you see it from afar and we create in our minds who they are and what they're about.
Right.
And then you get to meet them and you kind of are like, oh, wait, they're regular. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I think that's, honestly, as you were saying that, one of the things I thought back to was, I have 3 boys, as you know, and when they were much younger, I said to them, I will take you wherever the 116 crew is, wherever they're at, because they were and still are totally just into you and that brotherhood.
Wow.
Okay? So I said, wherever they're at, we will go. So we went to different cities, met you guys, and went to your concerts.
Yeah.
And that's how they felt meeting you. They see someone from afar, and then they meet someone who looks them in the eyes, who smiles at them, who shakes their hand, who asks them questions, which places value on them, that someone would take the time. And I think that, that was probably a decade or more ago now that they first met you. But you become a well-rounded person in their eyes. And then they even, I think people receive from you more fully when they see, He's regular. He's not a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a man on whom the hand of God lies.
Man.
And they see themselves in you, too.
Yeah.
So you got these young black boys who see a black man who's honoring God,
Yeah.
but still has his full swag intact.
All of it got to be there.
That speaks to my sons, you know, so I'm grateful for that.
Sometimes I have to turn the swag down a little bit, but, you know, I understand. You got to turn it down sometimes, but, you know, but. All right. So this thing right here is an album. I know it. You may not know what an album is. It's like a thing that plays records. A record, in order to listen to it, you have to flip it over to hear both sides of it. Now, generally, the A side of the record is all the commercial hits, all the stuff that everybody knows. The B side is like the deep cuts, the stuff that most people don't get to hear. Well, y'all, there's a B side to our worlds, to our lives, that most people don't get access to, that most people don't talk about, that most people don't wrestle with publicly, but we want to do that. And that's what the BSIDE app is. It's a place where we're going to wrestle with the things that generally are not seen in public. We're going to talk about things that maybe you wouldn't want anybody else to know you wrestle with, but this is a safe place. If you download the BSIDE app, which you can do for free, you get to listen to my episodes on the deep end a day early. I mean, come on, what are we talking? We're talking early access. Who doesn't like early access? So we're giving you that. Download the app and join the family. See you on the B-side. A lot of people who encounter you via your teachings and whatnot will say, man, she's so brilliant. She's so intelligent. She's so studious. Like, were you that way as a child? Or is this like, is this how you've always been?
This is hilarious. My parents should be here to answer that question. No.
Okay.
No, I had to work really, really hard to come out with a B on anything.
Really?
Oh, I had to work really hard. And
Really?
Crystal, who you know, my older sister, she's the kind that barely studied, and there was an A+ on everything.
Wow.
She just you know, rose to the top of everything.
Okay.
With academics. I was not the same. It was like pulling teeth for me. So there's no English teacher I ever had that would have ever said, well, Priscilla's probably going to write books, or no way. That would have
Which
never
you've written
been.
many of.
I have, and it's a surprise to me. So no, to answer your question, I would have not thought that I would have gone to Dallas Seminary to get a master's degree. I was just kind of hanging in there to get my bachelor's degree, because that's what you do, is go to college. But thinking that I would go to graduate school, or that I would write, or that I would be a thinker to some extent as a part of what I didn't even know the ministry the Lord was going to be calling me to. That's a shock to me.
Yeah.
And it's one of the ways that I just am like, you know, Lord, thank you that you see in us what we don't even see in ourselves.
Yeah.
And you equip us for what you call us for.
Yeah.
So
it because that's funny. Similarly, I think, I mean, I tried to be studious,
yeah.
but honestly, when I met Jesus, I just was like, I need to learn more. I need to dig in
Totally.
more. And so
Yeah.
I think that happens to a lot of us. Like, we start
Absolutely.
researching, reading, learning, growing. So that wasn't you. So as a kid, who were you?
Outgoing, gregarious, talk too much.
Okay.
But, you know, I was the one that your mom always has to look at you and go,
Okay.
stop talking.
Okay. Now you talk for a living. So it's like, it worked out.
All things work together for good. But I was just mischievous. I was
Okay.
just, I think both my parents would say, of the four of us, I was the one that gave them the most trouble. Because I was always just doing the most. Just
Really?
just mischievous. And I have a very independent, rebellious streak. So whatever they said we wasn't going to be doing,
Huh.
I was going to figure out a way to kind of just do it a little bit.
So, okay. And now I would have never, this is good. This is helpful for people because they see one version of how you've always been. So you're growing up a church kid. You're
Yeah.
going to church every week.
Yeah.
You know, you're in this family where there's an expectation. Dad's a pastor. Mom is, you know, first lady. Family is like, hey, we love Jesus here. This is how this works.
This is what we do.
Did you feel pressure to like, oh, I gotta be on? Or was it like, I'm going to be me?
You know, I think that I did not feel pressure only because my mother made it a point to continually drill into our minds, you are not the church's children. You're not the church's
That's
children.
so
You do
good.
not answer to them, and you do not have to rise to all of their expectations, which vary to the extent of people that are in the room. Everybody thinks they know what you should be doing or what the pastor's wife should be doing or look like or what the pastor should be wearing. Everybody's got opinions. So she would say to us very often, and in fact, I remember one time at Sunday school, Mom pulled the teacher out of the room to tell her, do not call on Priscilla for the answer to every one of your questions. She doesn't know any more than the other 8-year-olds in this class. And so my mom was real intent about just reminding us, you answer to the Lord, you answer to us because the Lord's entrusted you to us. But you don't have to be responsible for everybody else's expectations.
Wow.
So it's probably a mix of my rebellious streak along with my mom just saying, you know what? Don't let that be on you. Like that.
Are you gracious with your kids in that respect now? Like
totally.
Because you're like a public figure. And that could be do they feel pressure? Do you think they
I suspect that in some ways they probably do, because what children don't, to some extent, feel like you want to rise up to whatever you feel like the expectations are around you. But I try to be that vigilant as well with the boys. Just like, the Lord has given y'all great examples of manhood, not only in people outside of our family that they've had the opportunity to cross paths with, but their dad, their uncles, their grandfather. You have great examples of godly men. Look at that as the compass to set your life, not the expectations of all these people who are going to decide what you should be based on the fact that your grandfather is so-and-so or your mom and dad are so-and-so. You don't have time for that. In fact, when you think about it, that's such a crippling effect for every single one of us, even whether our parents are prominent or well-known or not. It's just like social media does that.
That's right.
You start answering to all these other people's expectations who have no investment in your life at all.
That's right.
No interest in seeing you do well at all. So I just try to keep their focus on, here are the people the Lord's entrusted you to. Here are these great men that can provide a compass for you of what it looks like to honor God, though not perfectly, but intentionally and purposefully. Just keep your eyes focused on that and let all the other voices just fall to the side.
So it's funny, as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about raising my kids and how I've had to just shield them from, like, you're not me and you don't have to live up to to the expectations that fans may have of me.
Yes.
You have to be who God has called you to be.
Totally.
And as you talk about it very, like, well informed, right? So I saw you in the movie The Forge, which, people will see in the theaters by the time this airs.
Okay.
And phenomenal movie, by the way.
Did you enjoy it?
Phenomenal movie. I'll tell you. I have some real comments though.
Good.
I'll give you some real comments.
I'm ready to hear it.
I'm gonna keep it real. Okay.
I appreciate it.
You did a great job. First of all, okay. So where I was going with this is, you were raising a boy in the movie.
Yeah.
Did you have to pull on some life experience in that role to raise this boy?
Yes.
Okay.
I could. There's near the beginning of the movie, you see this frustrated mother, single mother, and her 19-year-old is just not showing up for his life. He's just floundering. And she says to him very closely what I have said to my own sons.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what you're not going to do. You're not going to sit up in here playing video games all day. You're not going to spend all your graduation money on sneakers and video games. This is regular life dialogue that I would say to my own sons. This is what we're not doing.
Okay.
And here's what we're doing. As long as you live here, here's what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I could identify so much with a mother seeing her boy coming into manhood, but there's something about the manhood part that isn't fully clicking in yet, that responsibility part, that part where you're showing up for your life and helping, cooperating with God and charting your future. And so I could feel myself. I could feel my own blood rising as I'm,
on set.
On set. Because
Like,
I'm
hey.
like, I wish my son. And there's one scene where she's saying something to him, and he kind of walks away and he rolls his eyes a little bit. And I remember thinking, okay, this is a movie. Because I wish my boy would roll his eyes.
There was some times so I'm watching you in the movie.
I know.
And I was like, that's not Priscilla Shirer. That's Scylla. So I was watching the movie and I was like, because see, people see the
refined.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, there's another angle to this woman.
We all have two people in us.
That's what I'm saying. And it was coming out loud and clear.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, she's acting really well. Too well. Like, she slipped into character a little too easily on some of these scenes.
But listen, Lois was my mama.
Okay.
And Lois was one of the most refined, dignified, elegant women to date I have ever seen or met in my life. Anybody that knew Lois would tell you the same thing.
Okay.
She just was a whole regal queen all the time.
Okay.
But I wish you would.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
She was going to lay it down.
Because I was like, what is happening?
Well, I said to Stephen and Alex, the Kendrick brothers, Stephen, Alex, and Shannon, it's 3 brothers who produced these movies. And when they were telling me the plot and they were saying it's a single mother, a young African-American boy, I said, now look, if you're going to do this dynamic right here, for it to be realistic and believable, for people to be in the audience and hopefully see what we know to be true of raising children in the Black community, she has to have some ghetto on her.
Okay.
She got to have...
You said that.
Totally.
You said that.
Yes.
Come on, Priscilla.
I was like, she got to have a little oomph on her. She can't come in straight-laced and sweet. And he rolls his eyes and she says, oh, precious, you want to sit in a timeout? No. That's not what we do.
That's good. I think that's some of the issue that I've had in the past with Christian movies is that it's so message driven, it misses the reality and the texture of the human experience. And it's like, man, we want the message, of course, but if I just want a message, I can just put that on the screen.
You totally can.
Like, Jesus died for you.
Or you can hear a sermon that says that beautifully. Yeah.
And I think movies are stories where you want to engage in the human experience. And so that's kind of what I was going to say is like, I was like, I could tell there was a message, but then I was like, there's a lot of realistic human elements in here. And I thought it was great. I thought the way that it was all weaved together was great. If I had any critique, one critique, I think sometimes you got to have some characters in there that are not actors. You got to just grab somebody off the street and be like, hey, come here, because you do this too good. I think sometimes that's what makes some of those movies like, whoa.
I understand the rawness is not there. Totally.
That's it. But other than that, it's great.
I totally get it. And honestly, you know how it is when you film something and you look back at it and you kind of have to just let it go. Because if I could go back and film it, there are even some things I would have brought more of that down to earthness and rawness to. You know, but you don't. You see it 6 months later and you're like, golly.
No, you did a great job.
But I will say, thank you for saying that. I'm hoping it translates well and that people are endeared to it and that they hear the message because the story is worth paying attention to.
Yes.
And, what I know of the Kendrick brothers, they are such men of integrity.
They are.
Aren't they?
They are.
They like for real love Jesus.
Yes.
They're not trying to use all this as a stepping stone to get somewhere else. This is their calling, their ministry. And they want the church so much to be edified.
Right.
And they care deeply about honoring culture.
Yes.
So they know they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And the fact that they have the humility that they will come and say, what should this character's name be that will resonate with, that they care about the names. Or, we talked a lot about Aspen Kennedy, who plays the main character.
Yeah.
Before they had an actor for that role. In fact, I think they called you.
I was about to say, can I tell that part of the story? I didn't know if I was allowed. You know what I'm saying?
I said, here are the names of the gentlemen you need to call. This brother has to have swag.
That's right.
And his swag can't be gone.
That's right.
When
after
he gets his
meets
life
Jesus.
together.
That's what I loved. And so that's what I was going to say. Again, don't let my comment was kind of tongue in cheek about having some people from the street in the movie. You don't have to have that for it to be a great movie. I don't think Lord of the Rings needed real elves for it to be a great movie. I'm just saying. That's
worked, though.
It was tongue in cheek. It could have worked. Maybe. I don't know how that works. But the point I was making what I was trying to say though is, or what I was going to say is they called me, and thank you, because you told them to call me.
Yeah.
They called me and they were like, what should this character be like after he meets the Lord? And I was like, what's going to happen? Because, a lot of times people get this mindset of like, especially like kind of old school conservative mindsets of like, you must cut your hair, you must put on this shirt, you must do this if you love Jesus. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
So,
and the young boys in our community need to see that they do not have to have a certain kind of style
Right.
in order to be holy.
that's right. I do want you to pull your pants up, fellas.
I mean, a little bit.
That's all. Just
A little bit.
My,
Pull your
I've
pants.
become that dad. I'm like, it happened to me.
That's right. It happened.
It
You're going
happened
to
to
pull
me.
your pants up.
That's what it
before you leave
happened.
this house.
Listen, because my mom used to just, what is this?
Totally.
And now I'm like, hey, man, my man, come here. You ain't got
I
a
know.
belt. You ain't got a belt. So I became that dad. But yes, and his transformation, he still had his sauce.
He still
the
had some
movie.
sauce.
So I
now,
love that.
I will say, I teased him about it. There are some things he wore later in the movie that my son still wouldn't wear.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, I was like, the polos, I don't know that they
Yeah.
still not wearing the polos.
That's-
He needs his camouflage pants back on and his
Yeah.
long, big T-shirt.
That's
You know,
true.
So, but I watched them so carefully try to honor and juggle the story they're trying to tell
Yeah.
with an appreciation for the fact that they are not a part of the African-American culture. They know that.
Yeah.
And they have the humility to say, how can we facilitate this the best way to honor this community as well? And I mean,
Yeah.
so grateful for that, you know, that they care.
The way that you're talking about that, like that, some of that is personal experience, and you know what it's like to live in multiple worlds, right? So
Totally.
you can, be doing a conference with Jackie Hill Perry on Monday and then
Who I
Beth
love.
Moore on
Yes.
Tuesday.
Who I love.
And,
Yes.
and how do you navigate that personally? Like, was that how you were raised? Is that what you experienced? Did you grow into being able to live in multiple different cultural spaces and places? Like, how did that happen?
That's such an interesting question because I don't know that I can specify how it happened.
Yeah.
All I know is I just see the Lord's hand in that because, mom and dad were pastoring this church in the urban part of Dallas, which is, they started the church when I was 1. So
Yeah.
this church, I'm going to be 50 here in a few months. So this church is headed into its 49th year in the same urban community. But while the church was there in that setting, African-American church, the dad's radio ministry was alongside Chuck Swindoll, Alistair Begg. These were all the people. So when we were traveling in ministry, the audience was completely different than the audience in our home church in urban South Dallas.
Okay.
So I saw and was in a world of ministry that was always bridged with just what the Lord entrusted to my parents.
Wow.
So it never even occurred to me as the Lord opened up doors for ministry for me, which I didn't know ministry would be what I would be doing with my life. It wasn't like what I planned for or strategized for. I was just doing the next thing.
Yeah.
And as the Lord opened those doors, I didn't even think about, is this a black group, a white group, a Hispanic group? Is this an evangelical conservative church? Is this a Southern Baptist church? Is this Pentecostal? I just went wherever I was invited to go. And I just was myself. I did not think, well, I need to preach real hard because this is black people who need me to rev up. And I didn't think I need to tone it down when I'm in front of a conservative group. I just did Priscilla. Anytime I had that pressure on me, that feeling, because, we're human, so we feel that thing of, do I need to? Anytime I could feel it happening, I would literally have to take a deep breath. In fact, an older, wiser person said this to me once. I was invited to their revival. And I mean, this was old school revival. They were going to be doing the Pentecostal most.
Yeah, they're going to be shouting.
Yes.
Yes, running laps.
And he looked at me and said, we know who you are. And we invited you.
Wow.
Be yourself.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that thing has been a soundtrack for me throughout all of the years.
That's good.
That when they invited me, they knew who I was. So if I come in trying to be somebody else, not only will I not be able to communicate effectively, that's exhausting. It just is exhausting to me to try to fill shoes that do not fit.
Man.
Just wear your own shoes. And then there's a freedom that you have. And there's an anointing of God's Spirit that is on you because He is anointing you to be you in this space, in this platform, wherever He has positioned you and entrusted it to you. He knew you would be you when you showed up there. So He's standing by, ready to show favor and support to us if we'll just relax and be ourselves. And it's not always easy. Sometimes I have to take a deep breath, remind myself of that soundtrack, and then just get up there, even with the butterflies, and just do it anyway.
You still getting butterflies after all this time?
Totally. They're flying a little bit more in formation.
Okay.
but they're
I'm
there.
like, you're still getting butterflies.
Totally.
I wish somebody would have told me just be you. Well, my wife probably did say that a lot.
Yes,
but
she did, because she's very wise.
yeah,
that
she
Dara.
is. She's
Yeah.
wise. She's herself all the time too. I had to learn that from her because I was like, how do I do? I got to turn this button and switch this until my whole head just exploded. And
Totally.
And then I felt a different kind of freedom. But it took a while for me to get to that place. So I was asking, but that's very intriguing that you're able to like walk in that reality. And it's encouraging because your freedom that you're walking in is freeing other people. And I've seen that with my wife as well. Mm-hmm. I've seen people be like, she's just herself.
She really is.
I just feel so free. And I was like,
and we both married the same person. And the opposite sex. Like Dara and Jerry are very similar. They ain't trying to be on no social media. They're not trying to be in front of people. They don't want attention. They're just like right here in the background going, let me just help you out, Lecrae and Priscilla. Let me help y'all out. So the voice of wisdom.
Let's talk about Jerry. Okay. So Jerry don't want to talk. Jerry don't want to be out in the open. Let's talk about Jerry a little bit. You are boisterous, you're on stages, you're spitting wisdom, you're writing books, you're in movies, you're doing all these things, and there's a lot of men who would be intimidated by that. There's a lot of men who would be like, hey, you need to fall back. You need to, this is my show. And how do y'all navigate those dynamics? I know you're going to say, he's an awesome guy. He just doesn't even want.
I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
He is an awesome guy.
I mean, Dara and I haven't run into that per se, but I will say what's happened is my ambitions have, in many ways, tried to run over her like, hey, no, we're not doing all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So what's that been like? Yeah.
Well, two things come to my mind. The first is, based on what you just said, I am not an ambitious person. So what he hasn't had to contend with is a wife who is eager, ready to leave home, to do the most, to be busy all the time, to keep striving for the next thing.
Yep.
I am a productive person, but I'm not driven by more. I don't need more. I don't need a bigger audience to speak to. I could never, I hope that I get to do a film again because I enjoy the creative outlet of it, but I could never do it again. I'd be okay. So I don't feel driven. So I don't think he's felt the need to, pull back a wife who's just trying to do the most.
That's right. Okay.
I'm trying to be home and bake cookies for my boys and be at their games. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I think part of what has helped us, and as you know, anytime you're married, I'm saying this like it's easy, but, we've been married 25 years. There's ups and downs and hills and valleys. And if we didn't have Pastor John Jenkins and Trina Jenkins from the First Baptist Church of Glenarden in our lives, I don't know if we'd still be married.
Wow.
Because they have been every couple needs an older, wiser couple in your life that you have given permission to get all up in your business. Any question they ask, you have to give honest answers. Both of you have agreed. And any directive they give, because there have been a couple times Pastor Jenkins has given Jerry a directive. You will get on a plane and come to my house now.
Ooh.
And Jerry submitted to his authority in that way. Me the same. So having that wise counsel gives us a sounding board for all the ups and downs and the contentious seasons you get in.
Yeah.
But one of the things that has helped me and Jerry is that we are wired completely differently.
Okay.
So I am not a very, very savvy business mind. I can do it, but it's not natural to me.
Yeah.
Jerry he's a businessman.
Okay.
He, be in the meetings with papers and contracts and whatever, all the things.
Right.
I don't even go to any of that.
Right.
I don't want to be at the meeting.
Jerry's like, Priscilla, they said they was going to take all your money from this.
I'll be like, is it for a good cause? Wonderful. Is it for Jesus? Let him have it. And he's like, ma'am, we need groceries.
We need to eat. These boys is eating all the food. Exactly. Can you ask them for $1 at least?
Yes. So I think that has helped too, is that we just, there's a little bit of dovetailing in there naturally.
Okay.
And also I think that you're right. There are a lot of men or vice versa that would be intimidated or feel threatened. But I think there is a beauty in our gifts being different and that he does not actually want to be on a platform in front of people.
Yeah.
That's not what he wants. So I'm not in the way of something he's aspiring for. And I know there are other couples who both do that and they do it beautifully and well, and the Lord lines them up. In my situation, the fact that we have whole different sets of giftings in that way, skill in that way, and desire in terms of what we're doing or the way it's outworking, because we both feel like we're in ministry. It's both ministry, but there are different aspects and dynamics to that. And there are things he's doing. I don't want to do that part.
Yeah.
And there are things I'm doing he don't want to do that part.
That's good.
So I think that's been at least helpful.
Yeah. I'm curious because there are many theological perspectives on women teaching, right? And
I have no opinion.
well, clearly you okay, but there's so many theological perspectives of women teaching, right? Should they pastor? Should they not pastor? Should they teach? Should they not teach? Should they, should you be hosting this event or not? Like, what should that look like? And what I've wondered is, have you felt those blows? Have people come at you either on one side, maybe pressuring you to do more than what you're doing, on the other side, condemning you for doing what you're doing? Have you felt any of that?
Yes.
Okay.
And I've been in the middle of that, you know what I mean, in terms of hearing both sides.
Okay.
I'm thinking as you're talking, Sarita Lyons, right?
Yeah.
She and I have
She's
talked
brilliant.
Isn't she?
Brilliant.
It's crazy. I have
Brilliant.
such admiration for her. But we had shared a short conversation once about this very dynamic. She falls into this little in-between space, too, where she's in a conservative environment where she's doing ministry, but she's a preacher like no other as well. And there are people on both sides that feel like she's not doing enough or she's doing too much. And it's just hard to navigate that space. So most of the time, I just kind of remove myself from the conversation. And I just kind of go back to saying to the Lord, what is it that you've called me to do?
Yeah.
That's it. 20 years ago, I didn't speak in a church on a Sunday probably until, I've been in ministry for 25 years now.
Yeah.
Probably 15 years ago. So I was for a very long time saying no to all Sunday morning invitations.
Wow.
Mostly because I did not grow up in an environment where I saw women preaching. Dad didn't think it was wrong for women to preach or anything like that. It's just he's the preacher at our church. He preached every Sunday.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that. And for me, it didn't feel comfortable. And I just felt like, you know what? If the Lord wants to put me in that space, I know he's not going to ask me to push past a feeling that to me felt weighty, like conviction at the time. And then I remember a pastor saying to me, African-American pastor, he said, do you realize that some churches in the African-American community, the only women's conference they have is Women's Day?
First of all, I'm today years old when I learned about Women's Day.
Women's Day.
That's a thing.
It's a whole thing.
Hold
and
on,
mostly
babe, did y'all
like
have a Women's Day?
Yeah,
Oh,
in the
snap.
like that kind of traditional Black church setting, Women's Day.
Wow.
So they said that is the women's conference or that's the women's retreat. So if you're saying no to Women's Day at all of these retreats or churches, then this particular group of women may never actually have an opportunity to benefit from your ministry. That was the first time it kind of made me pause and think, wait a minute, Lord, let me wrestle with this. Where would you like for me to go? So I had to step into what would have been a space that didn't feel. I can remember the first time I spoke on a Sunday somewhere. It was at Dwight McKissick's church, Cornerstone in Arlington. And I remember feeling this is the best space for me to start because I feel a little nervous about it. But I know Dwight McKissick loves me and cares for me like a dad would.
Yeah.
And I also went to my pastor, who happens to be my dad. And so I'm like, 30 years old at the time. And I just said, Dad, I need to know as my spiritual covering if I have your blessing to do this. He said, yes. I asked my husband, do I have your blessing and your covering? Because if I'm going in, I need to go covered.
Yeah.
Y'all covering me? And if both of you are, then I'm good.
I don't know if it was that sermon, but I think I remember hearing you say, I'm here under the covering of so-and-so and such and such.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was the same thing. I wonder that because when I got saved, I wasn't churched. So I didn't grow up in church. My mom was churched her whole life, and she experienced some abuse within the church. It was little cultish.
Yeah.
So she was like, I don't want to put that pressure on him. So I was a free thinker. So I just was free thinking and existing. When I came to the Lord, it was a hodgepodge of different views and different theological perspectives. But I landed on like an extreme end of conservative like views. And so to see a woman preaching was like,
it just kind of threw you off.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what's happening? And I'll be honest, I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't have a category for it. So I was fine with my wife listening to you. I was like, yeah, babe, you listen. Go ahead, do your little study. Do your
little women's group.
What was it? She did what's the study you always would do? I forgot the name of the inductive study with somebody. I forgot.
That's K. Arthur.
K. Arthur.
Yeah,
I was like, you do your K. Arthur stuff. Go ahead, do your thing. You know what I mean? Do your women's ministry. Go for it. And then I went through just a really rough time, and I remember listening to a podcast by my sisters who do the Truth Table podcast.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so I was listening to them, and they were talking about this very issue, and I was like, wow, there's a difference between authority and teaching. It's a difference, It's like I was like, oh, I never considered these concepts, and I was like, do I really believe I can't learn anything from a woman? Oh, I think I believe that.
I was like, you saw yourself clearly.
I was like, oh, I think I believe I can learn nothing from a woman. And it was like just a come to Jesus moment for me where I had to be honest with myself. And that was the kind of the barrier where the ice broke for me. And it was like,
Very
okay.
Interesting.
Like, okay, that I can. And I've learned from my wife a million times.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like just her character, just in her saying, hey, is there a way you can not yell at them when you're
wise woman?
And it's like, in leadership and humility, I'm like, yes, I will lead in humility and listen to what you're saying. But I say all that to say, during a very dark season, there's been a couple of sermons and talks that you've given that were profoundly powerful for me. And I was grateful for your voice in that moment. You know what I mean? So, I'm still a work in progress. I don't have it all figured out.
Aren't we all? Neither do I.
I'm not up here giving a theological dissertation or telling people how this works.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you where I was and what I'm processing.
I understand.
You know what I mean? So,
and I will say for a long time, I didn't have to even contend with the question about being a woman in ministry because I knew my primary calling was women's ministry. I knew that. I knew that was the vein that the Lord had assigned to me in terms of when I started writing, in terms of writing Bible studies, the books, even invitations. Part of the filter was, does this have to do with women's ministry? If it doesn't, then it's not for us. That was one of the filters.
Yeah.
Just because I knew that was where my heart was. So for a long time, I didn't have to contend with it. And then the Lord put women in my path like Ann Graham Lotz or like Susie Owens out of D.C., these women who were preaching women and showed me what it looked like to do that while submitted to authority with power and with femininity intact.
That's good.
And seeing a woman balance those things out beautifully is such an inspiration to others who are watching on.
That's good.
It was for me. Yeah.
Do you feel like, where do you feel like you are? Because the way I look at it is there are iterations of people over the years, right, who have, done ministry or preachers or artists, whatever, what have you. And I look at you as, well, for a long time, I looked at you as the kind of soul Black woman who could communicate in multiple worlds, who could communicate the scriptures in multiple worlds, right? You were that person. And now it's like I look up and I'm like, oh, shoot, there's Jackie Hills and there's, Christina Edmondson's and all these people. And I'm wondering, do you feel like, and they all like mention you in such regard, like high regard. You know what I mean? What? You don't know this? Are you kidding me? Stop the. Okay. I told Jackie, I said, you like the new Priscilla Shirer? And she was just like, that's high praise.
Oh, Jackie, that girl right there.
Oh, listen.
She is a whole force to be reckoned with.
But do you feel a sense of like, oh man, I've been leaving a legacy. I've been in, like, there's a trail of people who have watched what I've done and are moving in that same space. Do you feel that?
It's just occurring to me.
Wow.
Do you know how something happens that reminds you of, for lack of a better word, your age?
Yes.
And you look around you and go, oh my gosh, how did this happen? That I remember always being the youngest person in the room. I remember.
Until it's time to scroll and put your age on something online or something, you got to spin the wheel of fortune to get to it. But
and one of the gifts in ministry for me was that when I was invited in my 20s to speak somewhere, it was always with people who were older than me. I was always with Beth Moore's 20 years older than me, or, Kay Arthur is 40 years older than me. I was always in this room where I was like, how in the world am I with these people?
Yeah.
Which was wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, in hindsight, I look at what I got to learn of just communication, watching those women in arenas, or what I got to see of what integrity looked like when they were in green rooms and nobody was watching, but I could overhear the conversation and be a fly on the wall for all that. But I always was the youngest person in the room. And then you look up one day and realize, God, doggone, I'm the oldest person in the room. So it's just occurring to me because I'm ending up in rooms where Jackie, for example, has got her 4 small babies. Those are babies.
Yeah.
She's got her kids, or Don Cherie Wilkerson has got these little babies. And so I'm in these spaces now where I realize, oh my gosh, I'm the one that's older than them. And then you realize you weren't intending to leave a legacy or to carve out a trail. You were just doing the thing. But then you look back and go, golly, there are people walking this trail.
Yep. Oh, yes.
And it doesn't occur to you while you're doing it.
Because you're in it.
Yeah, you just do. Yeah, it's no intentionality to trying to blaze a trail for somebody. You're just trying to do your best with what's in your hands to do. So I feel grateful that there are these moments that the Lord gives me now where there's an awareness because I'm in a space with other women in ministry and I realize they 20. They're 20. I was with Chandler Moore and his wife recently, and Chandler calls me Auntie Priscilla. And I said to him, one of the first few times we met, which has been a while back now, but I said to him, you don't have to call me Auntie Priscilla. You just call me Priscilla. And he said, no, I can't. And I was like, sure, it's no big deal. He was like, my mama would kill me.
Yikes.
And then I thought about it. Oh, this brother 24.
That's right.
You do need to put a handle on it. Like,
let me tell you
because I wish my kid would call somebody twice their age by their first name. They better say Auntie or Miss or Mr. So, but in that moment, that was one of those moments where you don't realize you old. Till you have a conversation with somebody, and then you're like, "Oh, you 26? I forgot."
Hey, but look, you we still look young.
We still look
so
young.
You know what I mean? And we got kids that keep us intact. Like, all right, Dad, you can't wear those. That's a no-fly zone.
That's
Dad.
a no-fly zone.
Take those off.
Yeah, JC, the middle one.
Yeah.
He's the one that helps me. He's the one that's like,
he got you right.
He got me.
Got the laces on the.
That's right.
On the
he
J's.
said you have to wear these laces. So JC's the one that will look at me in a minute and be like, take all that off.
Yeah, we can't have you in the mall walkers.
Can't have you in the mall.
The mall walkers are not. That's no bueno.
Yeah.
We can't have you in those. No, I. That's funny that you said. I was with Chandler Moore on a flight one time, and Teddy Riley was sitting in the front. I'm sitting right behind Teddy, and Chandler's sitting next to me. And Teddy leans over, and Teddy's like, "Hey, man, you think I can get a picture? My daughter's a big fan." And I was like, "For sure."
Was he talking to you or Chandler?
To me. And I was like, "For sure." Teddy
Do you
Riley.
know who you are?
For sure. And then Chandler, we get off the plane, and Chandler's like, "Hey, man, who was that?" And I was like, "What? What did you just?"
Jam. Oh, Jam.
Teddy Jam. What are you talking about? Check, baby, 1, 2, 3. What? He didn't know, and I was like,
didn't know.
I said, "Oh, you're 24." And
We
I was
forgot.
Like,
yeah.
I was like, I'm just. It's fine.
Yeah. It's just
fine.
like stuff happens every now and then. Then you go, "Oh, I forgot you wasn't here in the 80s."
That wasn't. You don't know anything. That's not a thing for you. I got it.
Okay.
Got it.
So-
Totally understand.
Call me Auntie Priscilla.
Well, I think sincerely, like, you're doing a phenomenal job, building a legacy, leading. I'm curious though. Okay. Because we've talked about a lot of things and you do a great job at helping people in dark times. But what has, I know you've experienced them, right?
Yep.
But how do you process that publicly? Because a lot of times I feel like preachers, ministry leaders don't get the opportunity to be human.
Yep.
Because you got to be on. You got to give to the people. Where's the manna for the folks? And behind the scenes, we see what's happening in David's life. We see what's happening in Moses' life. We see, what's going on, how Naomi's feeling. But how do you process that when you're in a dark season, but they're still reaching for you to be on and to do all these things?
Yeah. That's a great question. What comes to my mind specifically is that I have this close group of friends. They've been my people forever. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I would do without that community.
Yeah.
I don't know what people, you said ministry leaders specifically, so we'll just take that group. But if people are ministry leaders, like you said, people are tugging on them, they've got to pour out, but they don't have a community that they can be completely authentic with and say, this is actually why I'm not sleeping good at night. This is what's making me cry. This is what's making me have anxiety. Like you mentioned with dark times, we've had 5 years of chaos in our family. We've lost 10 family members in the past 5 years. And if I did not have, and I mean, it's a small group. It's like 4 people who are your people. They know you, you know them. If I did not have them checking on me, sending me prayers that I can actually pray, because I don't know if it's ever happened to you where you can't even find the words to pray. You're
That's so good.
shell-shocked from life.
So good.
You'd like to pray,
Yep.
but you can't even, to be able to read the prayers off of the phone.
Man.
And that provide a springboard for me to talk to God when I didn't feel like I could. I don't know what I'd do without that. You mentioned Truth's Table, Akimini.
Yep.
Akimini. And Christina, for a whole year, I just listened to them do their reading the Bible through in a year. That was my devotional time.
Wow.
I would take a walk and listen because I couldn't even metabolize the scriptures, like opening the book and reading it. Like it wasn't even registering. So I would just walk and listen to them read it. That's what I did for a year. And without a group of people around me to say, it's okay, we got you, and God's got you. Like he knows you're in this season, and me being able to process with them and be honest with them and tell them how I'm struggling. I don't know how I would have really gotten through that season.
Yeah.
And still walking through it. But that little bit of community matters, I think, so much to any of us.
That's good.
But if you're talking about people who are always pouring out and offering encouragement to other people, if there's nobody in your space who can challenge you, but also offer you encouragement when you need it, you are going to run out of gas.
That's good.
You are, yeah.
First of all my friends, y'all better start texting me prayers. Y'all ain't my friends if you don't text me prayers. I've leveled up now. The bar's higher.
The bar is higher.
Priscilla raised the bar on all y'all because that's so good. Because there's sometimes like, God, you know what it is. I don't have the words.
Don't even, yeah.
I gotta have a high priestess interceding on my behalf right now because
can't muster up the language, can't muster up the passion to pray. I'm just tired.
Man.
Just emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted.
Yeah.
And Montel Jordan and Kristen, she's one of the people that, for 4 solid years, I kid you not, for the past 4 years, every Friday this woman has texted me a prayer. For 4 years.
Come on, Kristen.
Yeah, she ain't playing. She's like, I got you. Here's what I'm asking the Lord for you this week.
Man.
And I will take those prayers and read them off the phone.
Wow.
And they've given me great fodder for other people, too, that I don't even know the Lord's going to send in my path on Monday, who's going to need this word of encouragement. And this prayer is exactly what it is that they need in their lives as well.
That's good.
I think it's so necessary for us as the body of Christ to encourage each other in very tangible, practical, meaty ways like that. Here,
Yeah.
I know you can't even think right now. Let me just give you these words
Let me
right
put
here.
something on your plate.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I'm grateful.
I appreciate that transparency too. I think
Yeah.
that's very helpful because a lot of times they just see a great leader and thinker and don't realize, oh, they go through real things as well. And
Well, I do that with people. Like I see them from afar and
Yeah.
I just think, oh, that's wonderful. Look at their life. It just, it all looks so packaged neatly
right.
when they're giving the message or when they're on their Instagram feed or whatever.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to put everybody, on a pedestal when we admire them for some reason.
That's true.
But, hold on. You hold my purse while I climb down from this pedestal real quick.
And that purse going to be heavy.
Heavy.
The baggage is in that thing. No, so this is awesome. First of all, we got to give you your flowers. We got to tell you thank you. I got to do a better job. I need to bring like actual flowers for some of these folks. Because y'all be blessing folks. What people need to know is to go see The Forge. Right? The movie's phenomenal.
It'll be a blessing.
Your book.
I Surrender All.
I Surrender All.
Yes.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the book.
It really is about exactly what that old hymn and the title of the book is. It's about surrendering everything. That it's one thing to be a believer and it's another thing to be a disciple. And you can be one and not the other.
Talk that talk.
Salvation is free, but discipleship costs a lot. And so what does it look like to surrender, to bring all of ourselves, our preferences, our entertainment choices, our relationships, how we govern our money, how we govern our families.
They don't like it. It's toes getting stepped on.
Yeah, it costs a lot to surrender all. So, I've been dealing with that a lot in my life. Lord, in what ways now are you asking me to surrender more, to lay down, to crucify my flesh, to restrain myself so that I can more fully honor you?
Yeah.
So for for many believers, for many Christians, the question we often find ourselves toying with is how close can I get to sin without crossing the line?
That's right.
But for the disciple, that's not even the right question. The question for the disciple is how close can I get to Jesus?
That's right.
So then you stop toying with sin altogether because your thing is this thing beneficial? Is this thing pushing me towards Christ likeness? If it's not, then really is sin to me. Because even if it is not in and of itself sinful, if it is not pushing me towards dependence on Christ, towards the mind of Christ, towards Christ likeness in my dealings with the people he has entrusted to my life, then it's actually not the makings of a disciple.
You just gonna preach today. I'm gonna throw my shoe at you right now. You just gonna preach over here, preaching.
It's a deep conviction for me too, because I feel those areas of my life that I'm holding back in reserve that I kind of like, you know what, I'm good, Lord. Don't you cannot mess with this. I'd appreciate it. But then you just feel that still small voice of conviction of the Holy Spirit saying surrender.
Surrender.
Yeah. Your ambitions, all the things, So it's just a challenge and an invitation for all of us to redefine what discipleship is based on what Jesus actually said, because the current Christian culture and culture in general has promoted this idea of discipleship that's really more about being self-absorbed and having a life of excess as the sign of favor on someone's life.
That's right.
More than what Jesus said, which is if anybody wants to follow me, he's going to deny himself. Take up your cross, lay it down, and come after me. That's completely different than what the culture is saying following Jesus looks like.
Yeah.
So how do we get back to those virtues, those disciplines, simplicity, holiness, surrender? How do we get back to that so that we can really be honoring God with our lives?
Well, that sounds like a book we need to be reading, because some of you guys are eating them cotton candy sermons up. You sermons. Be a better you. Get another you. Something else for you. It ain't none of it got nothing to do with Jesus.
Ooh.
And so
What you say?
I'm just saying. I enjoyed this.
I enjoyed it
It's
too.
so good.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. Thank you for the gift that you are to the body. Thank you for all that you do, all that you are, all that you have done, the investment that you've made. We appreciate you. And man, go support her. Read all her books. Go see the movie. And don't go to IHOP if she's in the building, okay? Just stay out. If you see Priscilla Shirer in IHOP, you walk out. That's how that works, okay? But thank you, sis. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate you too, brother.